Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is the Series 7 Guru, aka Dean Tenney, coming to you from my studio in fabulous Las Vegas. We're here every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Las Vegas time, for our weekly live stream Q&A. Tell us what series exam you're taking and where you're joining us from. It would be very helpful if, when you have a question, you tell us what test it is. So we know, because there's a lot of overlap, and how they test on one exam may not be how they test on some other exam. So that would be helpful. No, not necessary. It also helps me pick out of the chat. People are just, chatting with victorious test takers, things like that. The channel is the best free supplement to your paid study materials. And the channel is organized by series playlists. So you find your series playlists. SIE, for example, the 3 playlists are in suggested watch order. The videos in the playlist are in suggested watch order. That's the best way to get the most efficiency out of that free resource. If you're looking for a particular topic, there's over 1,000 hours in video content. Put in accrued interest to channel search bar or margin or, whatever happens to be parity. And then that particular content will come up. Usually a question. We have people who ask me to explicate questions for them, and I'm happy to do so. But a lot of times they're already on the channel. They would have put that into the channel search bar, the very exact question they're asking. They would have found my answer in video format. So do that. I have to get attitude of gratitude. Hard to believe. I had no idea when I started the channel, none, that we would ever end up with over 4 million views. We just crossed over 4 million views this morning. We had a record May, over 200,000 views just in May. And we have over 1 million hours of watch time. So I don't know if we did the average. That's what, 4 hours that on average people spend on the channel. Maybe that's just one person, watching 4 million times. So anyway, just want to express my gratitude to it for you. We have various communities. I call them sister communities to the YouTube page. I don't like sending out notifications all the time and asking you to ring your bell. And so when I'm doing things, I do most of them on our Reddit communities. We have our Series 7. That's a Reddit community for SIE and Series 7 test takers. I like Reddit because you can stay anonymous. We have R24. That's a subreddit for 9, 10s, and 24s. We have a Reddit R6 for 6s, mutual funds. We also have what am I missing? 66 for 63, 65, 66. And I like, as I said, Reddit communities, but a lot of people like Facebook. I'm not one of them, but we do have a Facebook community, and that's called Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks. We're already coming up on 300 members. Baby Brokers is a term of endearment. Baby Broker is a rookie in the securities industry, and a hat trick is 3 successes in a limited time frame. The 3 successes are, for example, SIE 663, or SIE 763, or SIE 766. You get the idea. If you are going to buy a paid supplement, we have a discount code for Kaplan. It's Guru15 at checkout. That's for all Kaplan products and services. And Brian Lee, the test geek himself, allows our viewers to have a 20% discount on his content. If you missed the live stream on Tuesday, it's available as a podcast on a live stream. At the end, we do a drawing. If you win the drawing, you need to respond within an hour to claim your prize. It's usually a coaching call, an office hour, a class, whatever it happens to be. Tonight, I'm doing an evening class on fundamental analysis, sources of business information, balance sheet. I'm going to go over a balance sheet and talk to you about liquidity ratios and solvency. And that evening course would be appropriate for both the 7, 65, and 66. And so if you win the drawing, you can have that as a scholarship. We have office hours, and office hours are for paid students. It's a free hour for people who have bought tutoring or bought a class or done whatever they've done. And if you don't want to do the balance sheet, I'll comp you into that free office hour. That's a $225 value. All right, so I think that's most of the housekeeping. Let's see what's going on in comments. Hello, I like that. Pick 6 cards. I like it. It looks like your avatar there. I like that. That's your New Orleans, it looks like. That's the Saints, I think. Oh, man, that hurts. That hurts, Grant. So Reach out to me. Remember, on the booking page, go to my booking page, deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. And Grant, there's an office hour, and you qualify for that free office hour. So if you want to talk, just go ahead and feel free to do that. The other thing that's free is a live stream. That's for everybody. Tonight we have 10 people. I cap it at 10, but at 6:15, 10 of us are going to be meeting after this with a whiteboard, and we go through stuff too. So 2 resources, Grant, to help you find those points: the office hour on deantenneytutoring.setmore.com and that live stream overtime session, which is free as well. Well, thank you. Grant, I got perfect 10s on that class. Kaplan instructors get rated. I'm not a Kaplan employee, by the way. Kaplan hires my LLC to do things for them, content and classes. But anyways, that being said, you get a rating, and we got perfect 10s, Grant, in that class, which is very rare because I got a strong personality. Sometimes people don't. I know you're surprised. Some people don't don't care for my personality. Start 65. I just did a pick 6. I have a practice final that premieres Thursday. So on the channel, we typically have what I call them live explications, where people have been kind enough to give you a free ride as they take a practice exam with me. And I got permission to do that. And there's a new one coming up Thursday where you can watch us do a Kaplan practice final. You can pause, come up with. I've gone over this, Jose, over and over and over again, and I'll do it one more time. There's 3 videos on the changeover. It's pretty simple, Jose. You will not see any questions on the change. FINRA removes questions that are recently affected by changes, and then months later, they reintroduce them. This is confirmed for the past 3 weeks by confirmation from debrief. I literally have hundreds of people taking the test. It confirms what I've done. I'm an OG, been doing this for decades. I was around when it was T+5, right? So it's not a big deal what's happening. So again, you won't see any questions on this for many, many moons. But how does the changes affect certain things? Well, the X date is still, Jose, the first date on which the stock no longer trades with the dividend attached. That's a function of the Uniform Practice Code. It emanates from the record date. Let me repeat. The X date, the first date on which a stock no longer trades with dividend attached, was and still is the first date on which a stock no longer trades with the dividend attached. I'm getting ready to make a video, Jose, called All My Exes. Like my ex-spouse. I'm kidding. You're no longer trading with your spouse attached, right? When was the last date you were married? The day before the divorce. When's the first day you're single? When the divorce is effective. So, X is Latin for without. You're held accountable for X rights. That means stock no longer trading with the rights attached. You're held accountable for X legal. That's a muni bond without a legal opinion. And then the X date. So now that T+1 is settlement, trade date is when we agree to terms. So if the record date is Thursday, the 16th, that's when the board is looking at the shareholder list. If you're on the list, you get the dividend. That record date is set by the board. The declared, the record, the payable date are all set by the board. And the record date, let's say, is Thursday the 16th. If I buy the stock on Wednesday, that's the trade date. T+1, on settlement, the seller's name goes off the shareholder list, the buyer name goes on. I buy it Wednesday 15th, I'm on the shareholder list, I get the dividend. That is the last date I could buy the stock and still receive the dividend. If I buy the stock Thursday, trade date, I'm not on the list. I'm not on the list, I don't get the dividend. I won't be on the list until Friday the 17th. So now the X date is the same as the record date. FINRA has told me, because I check with FINRA when these changes happens, and same thing as decades ago. They go, Dean, you know the drill. I go, I know, but people don't want to listen to a guy who's decades of experience and helped hundreds of thousands of people pass the test. So I just want to confirm. They say, yes, Dean, when we reintroduce them, they'll be unscored. And typically, whoever's in charge of this, I don't know who it is, it usually takes months. So Reg T is still T+2, 34. Reg T is part of 34. And the Federal Reserve Board says, Jose, that customers get 2 additional days to come up with monies and securities. That hasn't changed either. Regular way settlement is between broker dealers. And customers, we don't tell them because we don't use our money to settle their trade, had to and still have. That hasn't changed. They have 2 days from settlement to come up with monies and securities before I, the margin clerk, the margin department determines where the monies or securities are due, can bother you. So T+1 + 2, 3 days from the trade date, right? Because that hasn't changed. It's 2 days from settlement. We used to ask you about exercising an option contract, and that has been changed as well, right? It used to be if you exercise a call contract and buy the stock, that it would be old settlement, but now that too is T+1. So the option contract and the exercise are both T+1. Confirmation has not changed. Confirmations must be delivered by settlement. That's considered to be the completion of the trade, and that hasn't changed either. It's just now settlement is T+1. So I hope you found that helpful. As I said, I have more than 3 or 4 or 5 videos on this. I'll clip this and I'll post this again as another video. So I have a video, hard to believe it's already got 1,400 views. I just posted it 3 days ago, and Jose has a couple practice questions for you. So check out that video. It's the most recent video I posted. It has in the video description, please read the video description. It has some good content there. It has a link to a video that I go over this whole thing with you. So check that out as well. All right, so let's see what else we got going on. So again, you don't need to know anything because I just told you, Jose, you're not going to see anything. So you don't need to know anything until months from now when they reintroduce questions and they start scoring them. Kudos! Hey! We ring the bell for people who are victorious test takers. So victorious test taker in the house. The victory 3-0 begins with 1-0. So kudos. SIE. I don't know what your next texting victory is. 7, 6, but 3-0 begins with 1-0. I would also let you know the bell comes from a film called It's a Wonderful Life. I don't know if you ever watched it. If you haven't, you should. But in that movie, there's an angel named Clarence, and he says when the bell rings, an angel gets their wings. So in our live stream, when the bell rings, that means somebody has taken down the exam. Indianapolis. I don't know if you're in Schwab in Minneapolis, Maureen, but I used to go to Schwab's campus there in Indianapolis. And of all the Schwab campuses, I've been to all of them. Hard to believe. The best breakfast burrito in all of the Schwab locations used to be, I don't know if Maureen's the same short order cook or if you're even at Schwab in Indianapolis. Maybe you're at Ameriprise. But boy, that guy does a good job. Welcome. Third time. Maureen, don't you love this? You're going to pass the third time. And then you're going to have passed 2 tests. The Series 7 and a more important test to your success in our business, a test of your resiliency. And nobody's going to be able to give you grief about their testing journey because you're going to have a good story, rite of passage. Maureen, we just had somebody today. Do me a favor, Maureen. Go over to the Facebook group, Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks, and she posted, how many times do you think it took her to pass her 7? I just love this, her resiliency. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 6-month wait, not 4. Ding, 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 ding. She passed today on her 5th try. That is for her. Can you believe that? I'm sure whoever she works with knows she's going to do well in our business, because if you can continue in the face of that negative feedback to keep going down there and say, sooner or later, I'm going to slay this dragon, cool. So hang in there, my friend. I don't want to give any negative energy out there, but you know that the consequences of missing their time, Marine, are going to be a little more dire. I don't know what your previous 2 scores are, so I don't know how much ground you got to make up, but I hope we can make it. I sure think in 2 weeks we can find the points you need. So, economic factors. There we go. So, monetary policy. I think you said, Grant, you're taking the, what were you taking, the 66 or 65? So, investment vehicles. That's typical. Well, thank you, Kevin. I mean, I don't know what people's expectations are, but sometimes I go, listen, it's free. So, I have people send me like 6-page emails that they want me to respond to each and every question they've got. I'm like, Well, that's kind of not what the channel is about. The channel is kind of self-service. So yeah, 66 indeed. Anyone have an achievable discount? I think Ken Fennon over at Capital Advantage Tutoring has it's not a discount. This drives me nuts. It's not a discount code. A discount code means you just go through the normal thing. What most people have is a different thing, a portal. And if you use link on Ken's YouTube channel, I think you get $10 off. I don't think it's a discount code, but you get $10 off. I'm not a big fan of Achievable. I think it's kind of like a cult, and it reminds me of a network marketing company. Everybody gets something. And here's the only thing I'd warn you about. I think as a supplement, I think it's all right. I still think a Kaplan Q Bank for about $60 and Brian's all-in video course for $100, 150, call it, is a better supplement than Achievable. And the reason I don't like Achievable is a lot of times students get a practice test score that doesn't correlate to the actual exam. So just make sure you're, adding more to that if you're using Achievable. Well, thank you so much, Yasha. I just love it, when people do this. I totally respect it because I'm the same way, but I love it. Today I had somebody and they say, Dean, I never uncloak and I never comment on YouTube. I totally get it because, YouTube will then start following you around or sending you all kinds of other YouTube videos, and I get it. And so I just really, I always tell people when they uncloak and say, Dean, I don't usually uncloak, but I'm going to do it because I think you added some value. Well, thank you so much. I really, appreciate that. Right on. Can you imagine, Yasha, when I started the channel, I thought, man, I may never ever get to teach a live class again. Right? I don't think Dean's ever going to get a breakfast burrito at the Indianapolis Schwab location. Right? So I thought, well, I need a direct connection with test takers that's not linked to their sponsoring broker dealer or to their test prep vendor. And so that's kind of why I started the channel, Yasha. And I'm an old school guy, so I don't know much how to do anything other than plug and play, which is record, right? Do a lecture. I'm kind of an old fashioned stand and deliver guy. Unbeknownst to me, I had no idea about monetization or any of that stuff. But good news, YouTube and I guess, are simpatico. YouTube likes people who stay on the channel. And when I first started, Yasha, people told me, all kinds of people I know and respect, nobody, Dean, is going to watch anything longer than a 15-minute video. All your videos got to be 15 minutes. I go, well, we'll see. I got videos that are hours, 2 hours, 3 hours. And we have a lot of watch time. So YouTube loves that. And I love it too. So thank you so much. I think, Jose, I answered that. Asked and answered, I think. Asked and answered. Asked and answered. Oh, let's get rid of my banner there. Where are we at here? There we are. Answered. All right, Joseph. Woohoo! Congratulations. If you want to talk to Victorious Test Takers, Victorious Test Takers are in the house. Victorious Test Takers in the house. Yeah, I think, Frankie, that's what we said. I don't mind. I purposely waited. I was one of the few guys, by the way, that purposely waited till the 28th came and went to start posting about the change, because I didn't want to get into it with people like, here's what it is now and here's what it's going to be. And so I waited. As I told you right now on the channel, the most latest video I posted are those sample questions. And apparently, I think, Frankie, that must have been a good choice because it's already got 1,400 views on it. So I think it's a little easier now to explain that to people now that change has been made, right? We now live in a T+1 world. We're going to real-time settlement someday. Think about it. When it's real-time settlement, you can't renege on the trade. Renege means renegotiate after you've agreed to terms. And so you could imagine when it was T+5, when I came into the business, there were a lot of fails. People who either failed to deliver the security or failed to come up with the money in that 5-day kind of an escrow period, right? As we move settlement closer, it's harder for people to fail. And so, one of the things I've heard, I'm not a crypto guy, I'm a dinosaur kind of guy, but, I'm a guy who has a, money clip with a bunch of cash on it. But anyways, I was seeing where a lot of people think Bitcoin blockchain technology will make it possible for us to some point go to real-time settlement. Marcel, Tell Mama I always do. You bring her a present, but not you. That's okay, Marcel. We owe you, right? We owe you. So you've got to, I don't know if my friend Brian, it sounds like he's in. So I think he's in. But whether Brian's in or not, Marcel, we're going to go back to the place you bought us dinner, and I'm going to buy you dinner, and then we're going to do the comparison. Brian says it's much better. So I thought it was good to begin with, but we'll find out. So I can't wait. You said August, I think. August, I want to say 18th, I think. I made a note here somewhere, Marcel. So pick whatever night works for you, and we'll meet you over there. And adult beverages, a good steak on me. Well, Armani, you got to get rid of that. You know, I don't know. I would be, rich if I had a magic pill. Say, Armani, I have a SIE pill. You take this, and it gets rid of your anxiety, and shoots you up with SIE confidence. I'd be rich. I would think, knowing that you've done all you can do in the execution of your study plan, knowing, Armani, that you've been dedicated, you've been disciplined, and you've been organized, I think that takes care of it. But confidence is definitely worth points. So I'd be willing to say, when people barely miss their exam, their mark, I say, did you change answers? Well, most of the time when people are changing answers, it's because of lack of confidence. So what I would say is, make sure you're confident, most importantly, 2 days from now, in your answers, right? Trust your gut. Go with what you know to be the answer. Don't be going, well, what if they meant? They don't. So if you can continue to work, you don't have much more time here. You got tomorrow, right? And then you got to kind of wind up, and you got to be thinking about getting some good rest. So, as that timeline is collapsing on you, try not to be, try as much as you can. And do what you can do to kind of keep laying base. I would get, Armani, the SIE content outline on the FINRA website. It's a PDF, and you can print that PDF. And then I have in the front set on my SIE playlist, I think the first 4 videos are me going through that. And why don't you go through that with me and see how you do? The other thing, Armani, I would recommend you do is, I have a doppelganger version of the FINRA SIE practice test. If you haven't done the SIE practice test on the FINRA website, you should certainly do it. And what I've done, Armani, is I've actually taken that test with the same answer set and then wrote different questions. So I think it's pretty good, doppelganger version. So check that out. My exams, Armani, are not diagnostic. The ones I write are not diagnostic, meaning if you score well on my exam that I've written, it doesn't necessarily mean that's how you're going to do on the test. And the reason for that, Armani, is I only write practice tests from debrief. So there's nothing in a practice test that I've written that isn't something that comes directly from the exam. So that would be the third thing. Make sure you check out the exam I wrote, that doppelganger version, and then the other version. Looking for some help on put spreads and call spreads, and whether they're bullish or bearish, neutral or whatnot. I think, Kevin, that lends itself better to a whiteboard and probably our live stream overtime session. So if you want to join me this evening at 6:15 after we conclude this, send me an email at dean@guruexamprep.com, Kevin, and I'll send you that link, and you can join us. I'll get a whiteboard. For right now, bullish, bearish, or neutral. Let's just go through that part first. I'll just give you a quick thing without a whiteboard. There is no neutral spread. Well, I take that back. You're either buying volatility or you're selling volatility. So, Kevin, let's start with just a basic option position. If I buy an Apple March 190 call for 7, I'm buying upward volatility. And it's really hard to be right as a buyer of an option, Kevin, because you got to be right about 3 things. Direction, you're choosing up. You got to be right about how far, at least 7 points north of 190, because you got to cover your out-of-pocket cost. And you got to be right about the timing, when the option expires, right? So it's kind of hard to be right about all 3 of those things, right? Or you're selling volatility. So I say, Kevin, I'll tell you what, if you give me 7 points, I'll agree to sell Apple to you at 190. I'm selling the volatility. So that means I have the opposite expectation of you, right? If Apple remains unchanged, I'm still going to win because there's some time value that I'll get to keep. I just got to wait for you to screw it up. I say, Kevin, I'm here for you. I think you're going to be wrong about direction. If not wrong about direction, I think you're going to be wrong about how far. If not right about that, I think you're going to be wrong about the timing. So I'll take the money. Okay, so that's just a basic option. And that's the call side, right? And if neutral means I can make money if the stock doesn't move. So if I'm selling volatility up or down, we're talking about up. It doesn't matter if the stock doesn't move. I am. I know what back, I hope. You know, spread means difference. What's the spread on the ball game tonight? Right? That's the difference in the scores. Right? So here's the difference in the premiums. I'm smart enough to know if I sell an Apple 190 call at 7, and that's all I do, that's a naked call, and I have unlimited risk. So I'm going to take part of my 7, and I'm going to buy an Apple 200 call. You know, options are about. So now I have a floor at 190. I have a ceiling at 200. In a spread, all that action takes place between the strikes. So here's the mantra for spreads. Identification, long and short, the same type of contract. Longer or lower, lower, higher, longer. Repeat after me. Lower, higher, longer. One more time. Lower, higher, longer. Kevin, lower strike call contracts always have greater premiums. Kevin, higher strike put contracts always have greater premiums. Longer term option contracts always have greater premiums. So the way we determine whether the spread is bullish or bearish is the greater premium. So if it's a call spread, I'm going to look at the lower strike. And if I'm buying the spread, I'm long the lower strike, it's bullish. You're either buying or selling the spread, just like you're buying and selling a call, right? So lower strike, lower, higher, longer, lower strike calls dominant. So if it's a spread and I'm long the lower strike, I'm a bull. If I'm short the lower strike, I'm a bear, right? So debit call spreads are bullish and credit call spreads are bearish. Put spread, same thing. Lower, higher, longer. I think the most difficult advanced option questions on the test are spreads that are missing premiums. And you got to determine whether it's bullish or bearish with missing premiums. And the way to do it is lower, higher, longer. So at a put spread, the higher put is going to be, the higher strike put is going to be the dominant leg. The dominant leg, right? So if you're buying the higher strike put, that's going to be a debit put spread. And if you're buying a put or buying a put spread, that is bearish. And the neat thing about debit call or debit put is you need less volatility to break even because you have less money out of pocket. And if I'm selling the higher strike put, right, that means I got more money in than out. That's a credit put spread, and that is bullish. What I'm hoping is that, you know, the market price is above the strike price. Both contracts expire and I keep money. I was tutoring a guy today, Kevin. He was a little wobbly, but there are 8 things you got to be able to do on the test as it relates to spreads. You got to be able to identify the spread as debit or credit. I wouldn't worry too much about anything other than vertical or price spreads, but that's what you're going to see on the test. But we also have horizontal or calendar spreads, and we have diagonal spreads that are, everything's different. So can you identify it? Don't hate the 8 things. First one, can you identify it? Even if that wasn't a test question, it is. But if it wasn't, even if it isn't, you got to be able to identify it. Otherwise, you're just going to be staring at it going, I don't know. Debit or credit, debit or credit, debit more money out than in, credit more money in than out. Exercise or expire, widen or narrow. Now, good news, do debit, exercise, widen always goes together. When you're wide like Dean, you need to exercise. And credit, expire, narrow always goes together. Credit has 6 letters, expire has 6 letters, narrow has 6 letters. So spread, debit or credit, exercise or expire, widen or narrow, max gain, max loss. The gain and loss always equals the difference in the strikes. So my example of an Apple spread 190, 200, that's 10 points. The gain and loss equals 10 points. That's the whole point of a spread. All the action takes place between the strikes. In that example, there's a floor at 190. There's a ceiling at 200. So in a credit spread, when you sell options, that's your max gain. In a debit spread, when you buy options, that's your max loss. So I think that's the way to proceed. If you don't get that, then you go, oh, the maximum loss in a credit spread is the difference in the strikes less than that credit. I just think that's a mental mess. personally, but however you get there, you need to get there. Last thing we got, 7, break even. We got 2 memory aids device for that, Kevin, cal, and push. Call, add to the lower, put, subtract from the higher to get our break even. The last thing is bullish or bearish, and I told you how to do that. I have many, many videos on this. I will post in the video description a video on spreads called Don't Hate the 8. So that's how we do it. I'll do that. And if, again, I get check emails before I go into that live stream overtime session. If you send me an email, I'll send you a link and you can join us tonight. And I will put it on a whiteboard and do a couple with you. Notman's fine, Thomas. They're a great firm. I love Marks. Brian Marks is a hell of a nice guy. Almost the entire team over there is class. A lot of great human capital over at Notman. I'm a big fan. Would it be advantageous to practice with our QBanks? Well, they use the Kaplan QBank. So their benchmarks are their own proprietary exams, but then they're using the Kaplan QBank. And I always think I don't expect people monogamous. That I would expect you would want to do other things. On my channel, if you go to the playlist, I have practice tests from various different vendors, STC, Kaplan, Mometrics, and you can check out that. But yeah, I think you should get a different voice. It depends on when you're testing. You don't want to get, trying to do too many things if your test is like, this week or next. QID, I will write it down, Benita, and it's a Series 63 question, and I will post it as a video explanation. As I said here, it doesn't lend itself in this format to do that. QID 141059263. Same thing, Benita. If you want to send me a email, I'll send you a link to the overtime session, and you're welcome to join us, and I can pull up the Kaplan QBank and do that on whiteboard for you. Yes, right on. Mr. Rife, I'm assuming he's Mr. Rife. Stick with what you know, right? I had somebody today, and they picked an answer. I go, why did you pick that answer? They said, well, Dean, I've never seen it in the book, and you never talked about it. I didn't know what it is. I said, well, if you don't know what it is, then don't pick it, right? Stick with what you know. Absolutely. Absolutely. Remember, the other thing I would add to that is, remember, you can use what you know for a process of elimination. So if maybe you don't know what the answer is, but if you know what the wrong answers are, that can a lot of times get you to a 50-50. So also use what you know to do what I call process of elimination. Next Tuesday, feel good about the content. Yet to take my past perfect. Oh my God, Kevin, past perfect is, they have too much in a good way. I mean, if you do well on that, you should feel really, really good. The question is handpicked. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I'm not sure how to feel working at Fidelity and having access to a couple. Well, Fidelity's a fine firm. I would imagine, does Fidelity still have corporate trainers? I mean, you got people there to help you. But yeah, mix it up. Do a Kaplan practice test or see how you do. Just get a confirmation score. I would have no worries if you're getting over 70 on a past perfect practice test and you haven't memorized questions and answers. I think you should be fine. Boy, I just warn you, Kevin, past perfect takes you into the weeds on particularly partnerships and margins. So don't worry if what you're struggling with is past perfect margin questions and past perfect partnership questions. Kaplan as well. I like it. I like that. Best way is remediation. I don't know about past perfect, Kevin, but at Kaplan, one reason I love Kaplan so much is Kaplan has what's called a performance tracker. And that performance tracker helps you figure out where you're weak and where you need to do remediation. So I don't think you should do more than one practice exam a day. That's max. Because if you're doing more than that, you don't have time to do remediation. And what you're looking for commonality. I had a guy today in a tutoring session, and it was it's counterintuitive, but it was a good tutoring session because we found out what he didn't know. Right. And that can be a little disconcerting. I mean, you're finding out you don't know things, but he has quite a while till he tests. In fact, I offered them the opportunity to reschedule as he got close to his exam. I said, I would prefer to do the tutoring when you have a test date and you're like 7-10 days out. But hey, you did an opening purchase, you're long the tutoring session, you have the choice, but not the obligation. I'm short the tutoring session. I did an opening sale. I'm obliged. So I'll do whatever you want to do. He said, well, no, Dean, I want to do it today. I said, okay, fine. Let's do it today. And I told him, I don't know if he's going to write a review, but I kind of told him, like, I'm going to Am I still there in the chat? I hope I'm still here. All right. Woohoo. So you have one victory. Third time. Oh, man, I'll tell you. I'm going to give it to you early, Amani. I'm putting that out in the universe that you're going to pass that thing tomorrow. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to astral project. I'm going to astral project all the right answers to you tomorrow. Right on. Right on. Yeah, I do. I'm not monogamous, or I'm, listen, I'm under no, do I think you guys are monogamous to me and that you're loyal and you only use my channel? I hope not. I hope you use whatever arrows you have in your quiver. Now, be careful you don't get too much. I had one guy who bought every course known to man. And, I said, you realize that's the same stuff, just sliced and diced differently. So there's a fine line. But yeah, mix it up. Again, I would only comment too, and on your timing, you got to be careful on your timing. You shouldn't be, ordering a Kaplan Q bank as a paid supplement if you're testing tomorrow, for example. Third attempt, got 72, consistent. I think you're good. One thing I like about Brian's exams, Jason, is they have the strongest correlation to the actual exam. I have a lot of confidence that if a score on a Brian practice exam, Test Geek, does reflect what you are going to do ballpark-wise on the actual exam. So I think you're in pretty good shape. Yeah, Kevin, I'm with you. Every firm's a little different. But, there's a way to respond to that. I'll link it in the video. I have a video podcast episode called You Failed. Is it over? Spoiler alert, the answer is no. But, it depends how people respond to that. And I had a guy and I said, man, I hope what he's telling me is not what he's going to tell his person when he gets back to the branch. 66 indeed. Right on. Well, the 65, Martha, both Brian and I think the 65 is one of the hardest exams. And the reason I think it's so hard is there's so much stuff and there's not really a narrative thread. I mean, Series 7 has a narrative thread, right? Find a customer, open an account, make an investment. What happens afterwards, right? Function 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 65 is all over the place. And I don't know if you're using Kaplan, but the guy who's in charge of the Kaplan book, my God, Martha, the Kaplan book is now bigger than the 7 book, the 65 book. And it just keeps larger and larger and larger. And, the guy who's in charge, I said, really? He's, well, Dean, I'd rather them have too much than not enough. I go, I'm not so sure. So I get it. That's just, you just got to do some practice questions. Any tips? I would say when you think you have enough base, I would transition over to doing practice tests and use the practice tests to confirm what you need to know versus what's, nice to know. We were just talking about past perfect, but whether it's Kaplan or STC, you need to do some distillation of that manual and bring it down, right? And the way you bring that distillation process to bear is by doing practice tests. And then if you can miss like the same question 5 times, I did a practice. If you're doing Take 65, Martha, I'll link to the exam that's premiering Thursday. You can watch myself and a test taker do a 65 practice exam, hit pause, see what your answer is, and do it. And I was proud of her because there's a couple I said, well, I don't think you need to mess with this because I don't think it's very low probability. She goes, I want to do it. I go, fine. So, but that's how you find out confirmation of those test issues. Yeah, I'm having a good week, Isaac, but I'm barely holding it together. So any patience people can give me, I appreciate. I just can't, I pride myself, Isaac, on being able to respond to emails and in a timely fashion. I just can't. The channel is, it's just, I wake up in the morning and I got too many emails to possibly respond to. So I either got to come up with like an auto respond or something. So just be patient with me. But it's been a busy week. So after tonight, Isaac, tomorrow morning, I'm heading to my off-grid location to do a little bit of rest and, charge back up the batteries. Yep. Feel free to talk to each other. We got victorious test takers in the house. Yeah, I think you're doing the right thing. So I would ask you, did you change answers? Because 70-71 does not mean you didn't know it. You had enough base knowledge. So there's some other variable. I think those scores are a little more exasperating. I love that you bought the Kaplan and the Brian. I think that'll help a lot. I don't know when you had this misfortune. If it was recently, I like yesterday, I'd give yourself permission to take 2-3 days to refresh and reset. And then I would start again with your Kaplan, with your Brian, and then start doing practice tests and kind of power back up again. In theory and in practice, I can't imagine you're not going to find the points you need for this third attempt. But again, I will link in my video description after we're done to that podcast episode where I make 5 recommendations about how to respond to the misfortune of passing or failing, missing your mark. Can you go over accretion and amortization? I certainly can, Kevin. I doubt you're going to have to do the math, but accretion test question is done on a 0 coupon bond. So if I buy an original issue discount bond, we'll say for $600, and let's say it has 10 years to maturity, right? So I'm going to buy an OID, a 0 coupon bond for $600 with 10 years to maturity. So what I'd like to do, Kevin, is hold that for 10 years and tell the IRS that I neither made nor lost money, that's a long-term capital gain of $400. The IRS says no. By the way, Kevin, you can put accretion into my channel search bar, and you can find 10 different versions of me doing practice questions with people on this. But I'll tell you now, and then go to the channel search bar afterwards. And again, I'll link in the video description with a video about this. So in this example, what I got to do is straight line amortization upward. It's kind of like the first step to yield to maturity. I say, okay, I'm making $400 over 10 years. So 400 divided by 10. Each year, I'm going to have to write up my cost base upwards, right? 400 divided by 10. I just want to make sure my math is correct. And so 400 divided by 10, indeed. So now let's say that I've held the bond for 7 years. So I should have adjusted my cost base up 280, 7 times 40. So 600 plus 880 is my cost basis now. And if I sell for more than that, I've got a gain. Less than that, I've got a loss. So that's what's called accretion. It's more a recognition question. I have to do it on a 0 coupon bond. If I don't sell it, I would have neither gain nor loss at maturity because I would have been making that adjustment. Now, what sucks is if this is a treasury strip, a treasury strip, or a corporate bond, that $40 is going to be taxable. So I'm getting taxed on $40. I'm not actually receiving. Kind of sucks, right? So this is going to be a good recommendation for somebody in a high tax bracket. That's called fatum income. We're actually paying taxes on money we're not actually receiving, right? So that's accretion. Amortization upward, accretion. Amortization downward, not testable, is called decretion. That's not testable. But Kevin, at about 50% probability, you're going to get a muni bond purchased at a premium. And so if I buy a muni bond for $120, $1,200, 10 years to maturity, I'm going to have to write that down $20 a year. I'm not going to get to take the loss whenever I think it's, comfortable. So, if I had it for 6 years again, 6 times 20, my adjusted cost base is 108. I sell it for more or less. That's the gain or loss. I will link to a very pretty video I made on that, and you can watch that, and I walk you through it. So, Kevin, on the accretion for zeros, recognition, on amortization downward, on a muni bond at a premium, practical application. You may actually have to do it. I think I told you that if you want to join us on the live stream, then I think that was you. Just send me an email. I'll send it. I'll do it on a whiteboard for you. Yeah, I love Brian. Brian does a great job on distillation, right? Do you have the link? I have the link here somewhere. If I don't, I'll just make one real quick. Banners. Where's Brian? Brian at testgeek.com. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. So send Brian a email, and he's at Teachable. I don't have the Teachable link. I forgot. There is a link on the web on my YouTube channel. If you go to the YouTube channel and they hit about, there's links, and one of the links is to Brian. All right, where are we at? Boom, boom, boom. I think we did that. Currently studying options, Nicola, but I've always struggled to understand. I've referenced various videos for guidance Do you have any suggestions? I certainly do. I don't know, Nicole, if you've actually watched my videos. I have a whole playlist, and the first 4 videos are must. I'll link to them. I have the first video in the series is Introduction to Option Contracts. The second video is Basic Options. The third video is Stock Plus Options. The fourth video is Advanced Option Strategies. So please watch my videos. I'd be surprised you have if you're still struggling. I have a gazillion of them, but those first 4 are pretty good. I will link Nicola in the video description for you on that. Woo! Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. I would do whatever you've been doing for your other exams, rinse and repeat, right? It is a lot, so break it down into the chunks. I always say inch by inch, 65 is a cents, yard by yard, 65 is hard. So, break it into a little bitty chunks. Do unit 1, for example, do some practice questions. If you get a 70, 75% on those practice quizzes, move on to unit 2, do some practice questions, practice quizzes. If you get 75, do not move on. Do not move on. Do a custom quiz of unit 1 and unit 2. Get a 75, move on to unit 3. Do a practice quiz on unit 3, 75, do not move on. Custom quiz, unit 1, 2, 3, move on to unit 4. So that's how I would recommend moving your way through the content, right? And then what you need to do, Ryan, is reverse engineer how much time that's going to take you from your test site. And boy, it's tough. I had a guy today, and he just wasn't in the right mental space because he'd been working all day, and he's, I get it. So if you're a part-time studier, it's really difficult to carve out that time. So you got to carve out some study blocks, either 45 minutes, an hour and a half in the morning, or in the evening. If you're full-time, you maybe 3-4 study blocks. But, and I told this guy, we're going to need some weekends. So you need to put it out at least 3 weekends because you're working all day long. And you can't do this stuff when you're tired. So, the idea that you're going to work all day with the energy vampires and go home and do 65 is probably not reasonable. I'm with you. I had somebody who yesterday in social media, thanks for joining us from Facebook. We broadcast, our preferred platform is YouTube, but we broadcast to Facebook, LinkedIn, and X. And I always like when we see people joining us from Facebook. So thank you so much. I wish I could have a session with you. Well, yeah, you can join us for the live stream overtime sessions. That's free. Or you can book a tutoring session. Both of those are available on the booking page. So today, when we finish the live stream overtime session today, which is free, I will post another one. And you can find that at deantenneytutoring.setmore.com. So that link is also on the website or my YouTube channel. Just go hit the link and it'll take you to the booking page and you can find the free stuff. Free stuff is the live stream overtime session. And that's a shared session. But if you're the only one who shows up, well, then it's yours. Do I have a doppelganger of the Series 7? I have, Lisa, not a doppelganger because they don't have an exam, Lisa. But I have 2 very good exams that I get lost in the mix. I'll link to them. So as I told you, Lisa, my Series 7 exam is that I wrote, and I'll link to it in the video description, is based on debrief. So that's very good because there's nothing on there that is, people haven't seen. The second is I have a very good exam on suitability. It's just a whole exam of suitability questions. And people have told me they've seen some of those almost like verbatim. So those would be the 2 I would recommend in the Series 7. I have a whole playlist called Practice Tests. And so the 2 doppelganger versions are my 2 tests that I wrote, not Brian's, not Kaplan's. There's STC there. There's all kinds of the 2 that Dean, the guru, wrote himself, right? So those would be, I recommend. I'll link those, Lisa, in the video description for you. 63 is, I would say on 63, you got to do a lot of practice questions. Practice questions, right? So practice, drill, and rehearse. So that's one of the few exams where I think you should be doing primarily practice questions. Hey, Ivy, what's up? Oh, look at that. All that love. I'm jealous of your picture. Look at that. She's got love to the left, love to the right, love everywhere. Yeah, there you go. I'm with you, Kevin. I think we should have a support group for past perfect test takers, right? Yeah, I'm with you. I think 70 plus is fine. There you go. Astral projected, and I'm going to get it to you. Now, I don't know, Amani, where you're at. So it might take me a while if there's some, cloud interference or something like that. Sure. So for us as test takers, it's not a big deal on the SIE, but can I go over qualified versus non-qualified? I can. The main difference for us, Antonio, is that when we say on the test non-qualified, we primarily mean a variable annuity. It's not something you're getting through your employer. It hasn't been approved by the IRS or Department of Labor. And the main thing that means is you're using after-tax money you've already paid taxes on. And so you have a cost basis. So, for example, Antonio, if you put $100,000 into a variable annuity, that is your cost basis. Cost basis is simply when you turn your money into an investment. And so now, like any other retirement plan, it's going to grow tax deferred. Like any other retirement plan, can't get it till you're 59 and a half without paying a 10% penalty. Right? So I think of a variable annuity as a mutual fund with an insurance wrapper. And that separate account is a mutual fund, right? That's what's going to happen. Qualified for us as test takers means we're using pre-tax money. The one that most people are familiar is a 401k, right? That's a defined contribution qualified plan. In your 401k, the money you put in there, you've never paid taxes on, meaning that in a qualified plan, everything coming out is going to be taxable, right? So non-qualified, we have a cost base. In my variable annuity example, Antonio, we put in 100,000, we got $1 million. We take a lump sum of $1 million. We owe ordinary income taxes on $900,000. We don't owe taxes on 100 because we already paid taxes on that. If that's your 401k and you got $1 million and you take out $1 million, you owe taxes on $1 million because you have a zero cost basis. So that is what we primarily mean. I don't think that's a big deal for the SIE, but if you're moving on, that's why you want to overlearn the SIE. Because if you're moving on to a 6, I think you can almost test out of a 6 based on good work effort on the SIE. But on the 6 or the 7, there'll be more questions about variable annuity. So may as well put in the work now so it'll pay dividends on that next leg of your testing journey. Most of you, I'm assuming, are going on to a second leg on your testing journey. Charlotte, Wells Fargo, SIE soon. 60s on STC, still have 4 left on the site. Been watching it a lot. Thank you so much. What should I do next? I think you're doing the right thing. We want to get those in the mid 70s, right? If you haven't already read the book, please do so. But yeah, we want to push those practice test scores into the 70s. So don't burn those up until you get, you don't want to run out of practice exams and you don't have any, you have months left. So I would kind of pace myself on those practice exams and do remediation, lay some more base so that when you take those last 4, hopefully we get you into the 70s. Now, if you've been watching me a lot, thank you so much. But Jake, I have 3 playlists on the SIE. I think I have enough content to some people tell me they just use that and they pass. But I have a playlist of SIE lectures. I have a playlist of SIE practice tests and practice questions. And I have a playlist of a podcast series. So the other thing I would recommend is watch the podcast series to kind of see what it looks like cover to cover. And I will link to that podcast series in the video description. I think, Peter, I gave some recommendations already on 63. You got to overdose on 63 on practice questions. And that's one of them where you can actually run out of time. So pay attention to your time clock on that thing when you're doing a practice test to make sure you're not going to have a time constraint on the actual exam. Right on. We're all going to pass. I think everybody in this chat live stream is going to pass. Not comforting. I don't know, Martha, what somebody said that's not comforting. Did I miss something? Is there somebody putting out negative energy? If so, we can ban them. Second try. I'm not sure IVR, what exam you were taking. I'm testing in a week. Second try. I don't know what exam. Took 3. I was using STC. Okay. Took a week after the real exam. Okay. So I think you should be doing what you're doing, which is, getting a different voice and working your way through it. A week out, I'd like you again to be in the 70s. So 68, listen, I don't want to sound negative energy, but there are lots of people who pass with scores between 60 and 70. it's just you're at risk. So if I were doing, a class, maybe I used to do a lot of Schwab classes, Vanguard classes, and they have corporate trainers. And, backstage, we typically are going Monday through Thursday. They're taking a practice test Friday, and then they're all going to go down there on Monday. So, we'd say we have 20 people in the class. And at the end of Friday, after they do their practice test, I'm backstage with the corporate trainer, and I say, I think we're okay with 12 of these people. I think we're going to have 12 new crew members if it's Vanguard, and they're all over 70. And I think we have the expectation they're going to make their mark. The remaining 8, we have 6 that are between 60 and 70. And I think we're going to lose half of those folks. And, this corporate trainer said, well, let's save them. I said, well, yeah, I don't know who they are. If we knew who they were, we'd save them. But yeah, it's just statistics. There's no reason for that. If they didn't get wobbly, if they stayed dedicated, disciplined, and organized and worked over the weekend, they would pass. But every once in a while, somebody, gets below 70 on a Friday and they just, they fade. They just, instead of, damn it, I'm going to do it. Now, what I was really proud in this particular class, all 6 of those folks passed. So I'm not saying if you get a 60 to 70, you're not going to pass. The majority of people do. I'm just saying we want to have a margin of safety. And the margin of safety is being above that 70. Now, by the way, I'm actually lower. There are some corporate trainers think you should be getting 85 or 90. But I don't think that's helpful if you're just getting that because you're memorizing questions and answers. So that's why I'm not one of those folks. Anyways, we had 2 people below 60. And I just said it's really going to be a challenge for them. They can do it. I mean, it's been done, but boy, it's tough because they just need so many things to line up for them. They don't have enough base knowledge. They don't even know what the question's asking them. They don't know what the answers are. So it's just going to be really difficult because they got to be laying more base over the weekend and then doing practice questions. I just think the timeline is going to collapse on them, unfortunately. Both of them got high 60s, which I think is pretty impressive. I thought it was a great effort. They went back and they retested and they passed. So we actually ended up going 20 for 20 with, 18 and 2, and then the redemption on the 2. So that's what I'm saying when I'm talking about practice test scores. Yeah, your study plan, I have a link to it. I have a podcast episode on a study plan. So I will link in the video description and you can, get my suggestions. My entire channel and myself, you should consider it a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. Amato, I love it. Hey. Amato is one of my favorite test takers over the last several months. And what I like about Amato is kind of like in the thing, I like people giving me specific questions. It's hard to help people when they say, Dean, there's a question somewhere in the materials that goes something like, that's kind of hard to deal with. And Amato is very good at Dean, QID or page 198. Here's what it says. That's a little easier to be helpful. So, my friend, I guess that means you have completed your test taking journey. I'm sad. I'm happy for you because now you get to leave the Series 66 fantasy land and re-enter into the real world. I'm stuck in the fantasy land permanently. No wonder I'm demented. But Amato, I come into your life for a reason and a season. The reason is to help you pass your exams. The season is how long that takes. And so our reason and our season is over. And Amato, you don't have to unsubscribe from the channel. I get it. Every week I get somebody who sends me a nice thing saying, Dean, it's over. I'm unsubscribing. I think that's fine. I get it. It's no problem. And then I think it's fun, Amato, every once in a while I get somebody, Dean, even though I passed my exams, I'm not unsubscribing. By the way, it doesn't really matter to YouTube or me about subscriptions. The algorithm at Google is more about viewer satisfaction. So subscribers don't actually mean as much as watch time and views. But that being said, Amato, I'll see you maybe for 9, 10, or 24. If you're going to make this a career, sooner or later, we're going to have to take another test, and I'll be here waiting for you. I would take the 65. 63, 65 is the equivalent of the 66. And then I would use your 66 as a backup. So you got, another arrow in your quiver, so to speak, right, Jose? If you miss the 65, I'd go the next day to the 66. If I miss the 66, I'd go to the 65 the next day, or vice versa. Well, try to get over that, Joanne. Try to get over that. Yeah, Faith, it's not best practice to do it that way. So, I'm not going to give you a hard time, but the best practice is to have the exam and then reverse engineer doing practice exams. Had a guy today, and I told you, we asked him to reschedule the tutoring closer to an exam because he didn't have an exam. Now, again, it's up to him. We went ahead with the session, but well, there you go. So 70 on Brian, you should be good. And that was before you missed the mark. That's surprising. Notman marks, I like Notman. All good. Training consultant for me, Daniel's just a little thin. I wish there was some more information on training consultants. So make sure you supplement. And if you have both those, you're fine. Opportunity to push it out. Suggestions. I would want to know, Diana, where you're at on a practice test score, current practice test score. And if you're scoring in the 70s, I wouldn't push it out. If you're scoring below 70, I would. Okay, I think it's time for our drawing. It seems like my weak areas vary with each practice test. Well, that's tough. So, just got to keep with it. I don't have, any suggestions. Lay more base, read the book, watch videos, just continue to lay base around all the areas, and hopefully it'll come up. Depending on your test date, Daniel, you might want to take a day off. This happens a lot. You can burn out. And Daniel, I don't know when your test date is, but sometimes I've told people to take a day off, just do nothing, because it could just be you're tired. And if you refresh and reset, I can't tell you how many people who take like Wednesday off and then come back and their scores bump just because they're not tired. They're not, exhausted. Dean Tenney Tutoring.setmore.com. There's a link on the YouTube channel on the homepage. And so just go to the YouTube channel on the homepage, and right there's a link at the top to book tutoring. You misplaced my lecture videos. I'm not sure how you could do that. It's on YouTube permanently, McLean, right? When I go to the playlist, I see practice exams and then 6 minutes. Where are the lectures? The lectures are on the playlist. You go to playlists. There are 365 playlists. There's 3 of them. There's lectures. There's a second playlist that is practice tests. And there's a third playlist that is the podcast. I will link in the video description for you after this is over to that. Okay, let me go get our, if you want to participate in our drawing, let me get that going. Boom. Let's put, what should we use for our drawing this evening? How about, if you're going to participate in the drawing, you have to put it exactly as you see it. Let me go get us our screen on the screen. So let me go get the screen. Boom. Boom. Making the mark. So you got to put it exactly in the chat as you see it on the screen. And we will do the drawing, making the mark, right? So you're going to make your mark. You're going to make your mark. So put making the mark. And remember, what you get is either access to the free office hour or the scholarship to the fundamental analysis class. That is what you get. So you send me the email. I'll send you the link. I probably should have put an exclamation point there. Probably should have sent an exclamation point there. Lisa, if you want to be a part of the whiteboard session, send me an email at dean@guruexamprep.com and I'll send you the link. Any more? Going once? We should not let Marcel enter anymore because I think I owe him like 7 hours of tutoring because I think he's won. How many times, Marcel? I think he won like 5 times or some crazy thing. I can't fix it, by the way. So, I think Marcel, people think that maybe I'm fixing it. All right, here we go with the drawing. All right, Nigel. I'm not sure. I apologize for not pronouncing that. Thanks for joining us from LinkedIn. Send me the email and I will send you the link to whatever your choice is, the office hour. That's usually for paid students, and then or the fundamental analysis, whatever works for you. You can share it with somebody else if you don't want to use it. You can share it with whoever wants to join you, whatever. So just send me that email. All right. Well, remember, inch by inch, Your exam is a cinch, yard by yard. Your exam is hard. And I will see some of you in 6:15 for our overtime session. I'll put up another overtime session sometime tomorrow. So check deantenneytutoring.setmore.com and you can find the link or just use the link on the page. And if not, I'll see you next Tuesday. Same bad time, same bad channel. Remember, be the test. Let the test come to you. Don't be too on top of it. Stick with what you know. All right. Bye-bye.